Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at one of the absolute most intense round of 16 clashes from the World Cup, where co-hosts Canada faced off against Morocco down in Houston. If you're the kind of fan who loves seeing how a game is truly won or lost on the tactical drawing board rather than just through raw emotion, you're going to absolutely love this analysis. We're going to really pop the hood on this match, dissecting exactly how the momentum shifted and what crucial real-time decisions ultimately define the outcome.
Because think about it, right? If you just glance at the final box score, a 3-0 victory looks like total top-to-bottom domination. But how does a completely scoreless physical brawl actually turn into a clinical tactical masterclass? As we dig into the details, you'll see that final scoreline wasn't the story of the whole match, not even close. We're going to break into 3 distinct acts to trace the dramatic shift in momentum from a frantic standoff right into a breathtaking display of precision.
Act 1. The physical standoff. The stakes in Houston were astronomical. And man, you could literally feel the tension in that stadium from the opening whistle. It's incredible when you look at Jesse Marsch's approach here. Under his management, Canada didn't just ease into this match with some cautious feeling out process. No way. They came out firing with this relentless, high-energy press. It was a massive, aggressive assertion of tempo and territory. And you know what? It worked perfectly at first. Morocco was immediately pushed onto the back foot, seemingly shocked by the sheer raw intensity of the Canadian squad. Canada completely controlled the flow and created the earliest, most dangerous threats of the game. And this brilliantly illustrates how that early pressure almost paid off instantly. Canada's momentum culminated in this incredibly sharp, dangerous turn and shot from Tani Oluwaseyi. But look at this. Moroccan goalkeeper Yassine Bounou pulls off an absolute world-class stretching save. Seriously, if that ball goes in, we are looking at a completely different match. Bounou's heroics essentially kept Morocco's heartbeat going while they were desperately weathering that fierce early storm from the co-hosts. So, with neither side willing to give an inch, the game just devolved. 6. That is the total number of yellow cards flashed by referee Michael Oliver in the first half alone. Just sit with that for a second. 6 bookings in 45 minutes. It completely transformed from a tactical contest into a brutal, bruising battle. The sheer physicality was just off the charts. Tensions completely boiled over. We started seeing constant tactical fouls, basically chopping down transitions before they could even materialize. Flashpoints were erupting all over the pitch. When you have key figures like Achraf Hakimi for Morocco and Richie Laryea for Canada both getting booked in rapid succession, it tells you everything you need to know about the mounting frustration out there. Despite Canada's early superiority in territory, neither side could break through. They headed into the halftime interval locked at a scoreless 0-0. Which brings us to a critical pivot point. How do you break a physical deadlock? When raw energy, relentless pressing, and tactical fouling are totally neutralizing the match, what has to change? Well, this is exactly where the game shifts from a battle of brawn right into a battle of brains. Act 2. Breaking the deadlock. Moving out of that frantic first half, we see a massive, calculated shift. Morocco emerged from the locker room seamlessly adjusted to Canada's physical press. And now, what's really interesting about this setup is the sheer engineering of their 50th minute set piece. Instead of just forcing a hopeful cross into the box, Achraf Hakimi deliberately cuts a free kick back, directly into the path of midfielder Azzedine Ounahi. Ounahi cleverly spins this incredibly precise low strike right through the heavily crowded penalty area. The ball entirely bypasses the unscreened Canadian goalkeeper, Maxime Crépeau. 3 calculated moves, and Morocco completely bypasses the physical brawl to take a 1-0 lead. You can just imagine the shock on the Canadian sideline, right? After dominating the physical narrative of the first 45 minutes, they're suddenly trailing. Attempting to fight their way back into the contest, Jesse Marsch immediately turns to his bench. He throws on some heavy attacking threats, most notably Sile Larin, desperately trying to find an equalizer and reignite that early Canadian momentum. So the crucial point is that bringing on attackers only works if you can actually feed them the ball in dangerous areas. And Morocco, they flat out refused to let that happen. Nusra Mazraoui put on an absolute defensive masterclass out there. He expertly marshaled the Moroccan backline to completely neutralize Canada's transition offense. The Canadian momentum thoroughly stalled out, and they found themselves restricted entirely to these incredibly low probability chances from the outside. Act 3, the counterattack masterclass. That defensive lockdown perfectly sets the stage for the final phase. Let's move to and see how this builds as the second half wears on, because the escalating damage really takes its toll. After that initial 50th minute breakthrough by Ounahi, Canada had absolutely no choice but to throw bodies forward in a desperate bid to save their World Cup run. But Morocco was waiting for exactly that. In the 82nd minute, playmaker Brahim Díaz drives forward on a ruthless counterattack, delivering a perfectly weighted pass to Ounahi, who smashes home his second goal to break Canadian hearts. Then, deep into stoppage time in the 98th minute, with Canada completely depleted, substitute Soufiane Rahimi strikes the final knockout blow to make it 3-0.
It truly was, exactly as the analysis puts it, the finishing touch to a masterclass in the second half. The contrast we are looking at is incredibly stark. Canada's raw effort and aggressive press in the first half were completely neutralized, dismantled, and then overtaken by Morocco's clinical precision and strategic patience in the second. It wasn't just a win. It was an emphatic victory engineered entirely through real-time adaptability.
A historic progression.
As the dust finally settled in Houston, we saw two wildly opposing realities at the final whistle. For Morocco, it's pure jubilation. They secure a historic progression into the 2026 World Cup quarterfinals, perfectly mirroring their legendary deep run from Qatar in 2022, and proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that their previous success was absolutely no fluke. But for Canada, man, it's absolute heartbreak. The co-hosts see their memorable tournament journey come to a close on home soil, despite a truly valiant, high-energy effort.
Canada brought the thunder, but Morocco brought the blueprint. When the stakes are at their absolute highest, does calculated adaptability always conquer raw physical energy? It's a fascinating question, and honestly, one that applies far beyond just the pitch. Thanks for joining me.